I think it's difficult to say what defines the North Norwegian culture or what is the most evident identity bringer. There are so many elements and cultural impulses from all over the world and from all over Norway, and also a lot of urban impulses. So it's not really easy to say, but one thing that I experienced was very strongly connected to people's identity is the landscape, and the landscape you can't ignore in a way, in opposition to much more softer landscapes. This is a very hard landscape. It's very rough but still very rich, and I think there's no way without talking about the landscape and all the impulses it gives in the daily life. I think if it's snow, if it's rain, ice, sun, heat, waves, and of course the resources connected to it. Concerning the building process, in the fundament of this, all the processes and all the solutions is a BREEAM certification system, which is a system that evaluates every choice that all the involved people make when designing this building and constructing it. And when it comes to the building materials in itself, it's very much focused on concrete, which is I think the main material in the building, in every part of the building. The pools, the load-bearing systems and floors, waterproof floors, all in concrete, has been very searched for. It has been searched for a low carbon concrete. In the lifespan of the building, concrete is a material that I think the most important is that concrete will last the lifetime of the building. It's in a way, the way it is designed and constructed, it's a very good lasting material in this very corrosive and aggressive environment. Concerning the facades, one ambition has been, I hope is evident, to build up a kind of massivity, kind of heavy nature-like form, expressive form, or expressive variations in the way the facade expands and goes in. It's the breaking of the facade is made out of very thin aluminium, which in principle is very light. It's a simple wooden construction and very thin aluminium cladding outside, which is lacquered and will take all the pressure from the nature and climate in this place. It blows a lot, snows a lot, and also salty air from the fjords. And this aluminium facade will have a very long-lasting life. And aluminium is a material that is very, very convenient for reuse. It's very easy to melt down and use for other purposes when this building has done its job in maybe 50 or 60 years. This facility is used by, I think, every thinkable user group in the society. It's all from competitors to families, children learning to swim, babies and mothers, fathers, newborns having their first dip, and elderly people with muscle problems or training up muscles. I think every thinkable user has some kind of interest in this project. The interaction between them is kind of difficult to talk about in the general sense, because some of the users, of course, want to be alone and has the need for privacy. whereas other users want to be seen. For instance, young people doing acrobatic dives. There's all the aspects of user interest, and the interaction between them is more. It's more kind of, we have designed it more like building that has the capacity for many different interactions and lack of interactions. So we have both the private places, we have the very public places and the very active places and very relaxing places, and the user groups fill them as a natural thing. That's my way of seeing it. In principle, it's all connected visually, but it's divided more subtle with the height of the roof and the ceilings, varying ceilings, some places low, very low, some places very high, to make zones that make it possible to withdraw, for instance, baby swimming, or elderly people, and the young people to be seen from all of the facility. So I guess it's more a concept of making different possibilities for the users, and the users themselves interact in the natural way. The concept of the interior architecture is, as I told, making spaces around the pools. We have this surface, this platform, this green platform, this green floor, that's a carpet that connects all the pools. And then we have the pool as an inverse volume in the building. It has a depth. It makes a space in itself downwards. And we tried to answer that downward space in an upward space in the ceiling, making the ceiling reflect the pool or the water surface. So you can look from everywhere, in every direction, from every direction through the building. But when you come enter the building, you have the first space actually is the climbing hall, with the third largest climbing wall in Norway. Which makes, actually, when you walk into the foyer, you have lower floor with the climbing activities where they start, the floor of the climbing hall. It's 4.5 meters down. Like the pools, it's inverse space. It's a space that's makes a hole in this platform downwards, and we have extracted it upwards architecturally. So the climbing walls goes 90 meters high up. From the foyer, you see the section of the climbing hall, and you can see down, you can see up. But when you're in the climbing hall, you're in a tall, 80-meter tall, high space. And of course, the activity in the climbing hall is the first thing that meets you. You can also see into the pools. You can see all the activity in the most public areas in the building. So you're invited without actually being on the right or on the places where the activities happen, but you can see them, you're invited. The climbing hall is maybe the most evident conceptual part of the building, because it's so clean as a vertical space in the horizontal organization of the floor. When you go into the cost of the building, it's actually some that has a lot of elements. You also have the main collection of pools in northern Norway. So I think you have to compare it to the old to the historic way of building pools. We, in early days, 60s, 70s, we built pools in every school around the country. We had the best coverage of pools in I think anywhere in the world, in Norway before. So in quite poor country, we had the fantastic facilities, but they were built in a way that couldn't last. Very simple, many places, and some of them are rehabilitated and used again, but most of them are demolished. And you have to compare Tromsøbadet with building a lot of small facilities, and there is no right or wrong answer to this discussion, but I think the intention with Tromsøbadet is to collect the energy and have synergy between many pools, because you can have the maintenance professionalized, you can have the much higher degree of specialization in the sports, and also in training, and also, of course, as attraction for all the people that are not using these small pools, which still costs a lot of money. But on the other hand, you have to actually bring pupils from schools from quite far distance in buses. That's the only way to bring them there, to make them to learn to swim, which is mandatory in fourth grade or when you're 10 years old. So that's the opposite. That's the negative thing about centralizing this pool. But I think it makes reason to say that you have a lot of effects that you won't have with small pools spread around the region. And when it comes to the costs, if you divide that in, I think each day until it had to lock down for maintenance and the corona, it was visited about 1,000 people every day paying to come in, and also people training or youngsters training, pupil learning to swim, elderly. If you take that in 60 years, maybe 50, 60 years, take the usage of all these people and divide it also in the region's population, it's not really that bad. And if you also take into account the effect of the health of and the well-being of all these people, and many people may have not been active otherwise if they didn't go to Tromsøbadet. We see that people are more active than they elsewhere would be, because they don't have an offer that fits them or it's attractive. So if you take that into account too, the sum will be a bit different. So you have to think about all the side effects and all the health effects, and also the lifespan of the building. And of course, we keep the building makes people be safe in water, learn to swim. We have less tragedies on the sea or in lakes and elsewhere. So the building has a lot of upsides when it comes to other social costs in the society. Just to say a little bit about the localization of the Tromsøbadet. It was a long discussion in Tromsø that ended on Templeheimen, on top of the Tromsø island, right between the airport and the bridge to Kvaløya and Tromsø, the center of Tromsø, because that was the planned center of the sports facilities in Tromsø, and it's also close to the university actually. So the plans and ideas for Templeheimen was quite large, and Tromsøbadet was the first new project to be realized. So there's a lot to be said about the localization. It's also a lot of discussions, but when it ended there, it's on the top of the island. It has a fantastic view over Kvaløya and Kvaløysundet. So you're lifted up above the fjords surrounding fjords, and have a vast view and perspective over the mountains, surrounding mountains. So it's not close to the mountain, not close to the sea, but you have a fantastic panorama. And that, of course, had to be implemented in the building. So, as I mentioned earlier, the concept to make this floor, this elevated floor where all the pools were organized, was to keep the panorama from all parts of the building. So you can see through the building, you can see to the landscape, you can be everywhere in the building and have connection with the surrounding landscape, and of course the majestic mountains and fjords. So I think it's very striking the way the landscape comes into the building. When you swim or when you go outside in the outside pool, hanging on the, I think 5-6 meters above the ground, above mica and the skiers and ski arenas. The concept with this platform on the top of the island, with this green carpet you walk on between the pools, is one thing. We also have a reflection of that surface in the ceiling, which is made of cement, wood and cement, but it has preserved the wooden texture and the wooden color. So it gives the impression of wood, but still, of course, possible to have in a swimming facility. And together these give warmth, which we think is important in this quite harsh surroundings, the panoramic or the views over the mountains and this rough landscape. We try to create intimate atmospheres with warm colors and nature colors. When you go into swimming facilities, as I have been saying, there's a lot of different needs, but in what is common, or what is everyone experiences, is that they take off the clothes and they expose themselves. They expose the skin and they expose the bodies to the surroundings. And I think it's a very important for us contrast to make with the landscape outside, to make it intimacy, to make a nice and warmer inner atmosphere in the building. And of course you can go also all the way into the grotta, which is maybe the most intimate part of the building, where you can't hear the sound of yourself. You also have the acoustic working, making its own atmosphere. So water and movement makes a lot of noise, and acoustics is very important, actually part of the experience. And that's why we also have this relaxation area moved all the way to closest to the view, but furthest from the waves and diving and the cafeteria, which also is very active in this way and has its own atmosphere.